Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Austrian Cultural Forum, I have invited you today for this evening of Future Jam 2024. Today, we are here with Alexander Gavrilovic, Secretary of the Croatian Game Development Association. Mr. Gavrilovic, can you tell us a bit about the Future Jam concept? What is it about?
Yes. So this is a concept where every year, well, we started last year, we partner with the Austrian Cultural Forum, and we find a place and invite young game developers, people who make video games, to make very short, small video games on a subject which has some social impact. And every year we choose a social impact which somehow pertains to Austria as a country. We'll of course talk about the specific themes later, but the idea is teams come to the location, listen to the mentors, the experts from Austria who tell them about this topic, whatever the topic is. And once they've learned about it and learned about this Austrian way of thinking about this topic, then they have 24 hours, just 24 hours. Of course, they have to sleep and everything to make a video game. So it's a little bit less usually, and usually there's a lot of communication and partying and so on. So it's usually maybe 8 hours of work. And of course, these games then are very small, which is why we always give them a few months to actually just polish them up so they don't have any huge bugs, and problems. And then after that, we have a nice exhibition where we invite people here to check them out and to play them, for the first time here. That's the concept of Future Jam.
Future Jam has been happening for the second year in a row now. Tell us a bit about the results last year, please.
Yes. So last year the topic was the future of work, and people had to make games about the past, the present, and the future of work. And there was a few very, very interesting games that were made. We had also very interesting experts from Austria who helped. Even one of them came on site and was there it was in Novska last year. So he was there in the Novska incubator helping the studios. That was Georg Hobmeier from Causa Creations, socially aware Austrian game development studio. And the games were really nice about, how workers' struggle changed over the years and so on. And we talked also about unionization and these kinds of things. And the games are always, the games were about this, about people joining unions, striking, getting more rights, and so on. One of them you can play already, two of them you can play on Steam, on the platform Steam for video games. One is called Daily Thread, and it's about textile factory workers in the 19th century in Manchester. And one is called, and this one actually, if you buy it, the money goes to the non-government organization called Labor Behind the Label, which fights for labor rights in the textile industry. And the other one is called Picket Line, which is about forming a picket line of workers so that the strike can continue. And this was actually inspired by events from Zagreb from the 1920s, about this very large factory strike which lasted for many days and was actually successful because they were actually fighting for 10-hour days. So we're a little bit better now, 100 years later, or maybe it depends on the kind of work, And both of these games were actually this year presented in Belgrade on the Bell Docs Festival. It's usually a festival for documentary movies, but they also this year have like a space for great regional and international socially aware games, and both of them were so good that they were exhibited there as well.
The topic this year was the future of housing. It's an important topic, especially with the housing crisis in Croatia and other countries. How do you think video games can help in this discussion?
Yes. So first, of course, future of housing, another great topic where Austria can show us a very good way forward because they have great public housing projects and they have really solved the housing for their country since many years ago. And so what we tried to do this year is to take this topic, which is a little bit complicated for people to understand, why is housing so expensive? Why is rent expensive? What are the mechanics that cause this, So these things are very difficult to explain, for example, in a movie, which just shows you a story. But when you have the interaction, when you is in one of these games, you will see you are actually on the housing market, you're buying houses, and you see how the price of rent changes depending on how many houses there are on the market, how many you bought, how many the private capital bought, how many the city bought for public housing. And so when you play this interactively, it's much easier to understand these complex topics, in my opinion. And this is not very, you don't see this very often. You don't see video games actually talking about complex social topics. You do more and more in the past years, even decades. But this is our little attempt to also give people space to talk about what is actually currently in Croatia, as you said, a huge crisis and something that has been in the news in the past weeks with the housing strategy and everything, a big important topic. And this is maybe a way to bring it closer to, I don't know, younger audiences or younger at heart audiences. Yes.
Before we sit down to play the video games, tell us a bit about the games made this year.
Yes.
About this year's Future Jam.
Thank you. I will briefly tell you about each game because you can sit down and play them, but I think it's important to give you a context. So this year the experts were Lukas Stockner from the Austrian Chamber of Workers, who was talking about housing and how Vienna, for example, is solving any housing crisis by actually being an active actor on the housing market and buying land and housing and transforming it in public housing and so on. And one of the games is actually about that, the city of Split, because we were in Split when we were doing these games in the University of Aspira, and the Split team, who are actually from there. Unfortunately, they couldn't come today because they got sick, but these are wonderful students with a great sense of humor, and they made this game where the city of Split decides to open this housing fund initiative and buys houses, and then of course you have to figure out in which neighborhood of Split to buy houses, which one is cheaper, and then you do this by reading newspapers and finding out where there was a fight between the football team, and then okay, probably the price is going to become lower then because there's a problematic neighborhood, so you buy then and then it's cheaper for you and so on. So it's very interesting. The second one is made by the team from Zagreb. It's called Splitting. Of course, the team was housing in Split, so everybody was doing something with Split. And these guys made a dystopian vision of the future of Split, where the whole city is most of the city is underwater. People live on platforms, above water, and the artificial intelligence has taken over the governance of the entire city. And this artificial intelligence has, of course, an algorithm in the way that it works. And its algorithm says that it has to, make the city better for everyone, of course. But how? By checking, crude financial numbers, So the numbers are better, the numbers go up if, there's a lot of tourists. So this artificial intelligence just, evicts everybody from their houses and creates tourist spots so people can, go on Airbnb or whatever. And you were a university professor, but the artificial intelligence tells you, no, now you have to be a delivery guy. So this is a very dystopian vision of the future, but it can be solved. I will now spoil it because it's a short game. I'm sorry for the developers. But the way to solve it is to change the programming of the artificial intelligence. So it's not, so it doesn't prioritize profit, and economy, but actually well-being and the right to housing for every individual. And then when you change the code for the artificial intelligence, then of course it becomes nicer and starts giving people proper jobs and doesn't prioritize tourism and so on. And the third game, made from the guys at from Osijek, and also a girl from Opatija. So they made a very strange fantasy concept. It's called Split Up, where you are the house. You're a huge living house with legs, and you're walking around this plane and trying to take into your new residence for your house. And this was inspired by the second experts of our Future Jam this year. This was Living for the Future. People from this cooperative in Austria who are building sustainable housing. And they were talking about that very important issue when you're building houses, that you have to take into account the various people who are going to be living in these houses, you know. So, for example, some old people, you have to take into account that they wouldn't want to be next door to a rock and roll band, you know, and so on. And also, very importantly, they said that the house also has this social function to eradicate class differences. So if you have a very strong, you know, a very elitist house with just one class, and then you have a slum with just a lower class, it's problematic. So they're trying to build houses where they, you know, have various classes in, so you have some kind of class harmony, if it is possible, of course. And this game was inspired by this, and so you're trying to move around, take different residents, but take into account what they do and what they are, and also take into account these different class structures. That's the short. I'm sorry, it's a bit long, but just for giving you the context.
Thank you very much. And what will happen next to these games?
Well, we don't know, but I do know that one of these games is already polished enough that it got released, I think this week or last week. So you can actually go to the platform itch. It's a small gaming platform, and you can play this game already publicly. But I'm hoping that the other two games will as well polish up a little bit more and be available publicly. But even if they're not, they're available today for all of us to play.
That's interesting. And now it's time to give the developers their official award certificates, and we will call them out. And one
Yes.
team per team.
Good.
And
Super Study from Zagreb. Vidite kolega.
Just moment. In my PowerPoint.
Neka,
so there are two persons, and I have two certificates for you.
Good.
So these are the certificates. Please.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The second team
Congratulations.
from Osijek, Downtown Game Studio. Just you. Okay. Just
So I give you, these are the certificates for the photo. So I give you all three certificates for the three participants.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Handschüttel. I should.
Thank you.
and the third team, Degeni from Split. Well, they couldn't arrive. Maybe we should do Future of Transportation next year. But it was a bit difficult to get from Split with public transport. So if somebody would take this in their place, and then of course give it to them later, of course. Yes. Okay. Good. Yeah, I think is this.
I think this is, we have done the certificates now, and now I want to thank all of you for coming. And I think now it's time for the main event, to go and play the games. So enjoy playing the games. And we have prepared some Austrian wine and some snacks. So please enjoy the evening playing the games.
Yes.
I would like to say, very happy to come here again, see you, and I don't know whether where is the here is. because two of them were at the Academy of Applied Arts in the frame of Drawing Globe. And it was a lot of students. They gave a workshop. And after that, everybody asked me, where are these guys? How can we continue doing that? And I said, well, we will find a way, but there is a lot of young people who really have great interest. And second thing is your company or your group help us a lot with the VR set, which is excellent for another project for this. So thank you very much. From me, you will get personally award.
Yes, maybe next time it should be in the country. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
that
yes,
is
I think it was very good, the seminar in Rijeka,
Yes.
because I was there. It was one of my first events.
Yeah,
It was really good, this cooperation you had with the students and with Mr. Gavrilovic.
yes. And you gave it.
Okay, not to keep
Thank
looking, you can, there's just 3 computers and 3 games, so you can look over the shoulder of whoever is playing. Unfortunately, you'll have to switch. Thanks a lot. And there's drinks. And
Enjoy. And enjoy the wine.